All is good. Yeah. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Vishnu Dutt, and today we are into our question number 11 of Network Interview Preparation Series. This question is one of the most important one. Why? Because most interviews start with this question. The question is, what happens when you type google.com in your browser? Actually, this question opens a lot of other questions, and that is why it is the most favorite one of any interviewer. Interviewer can ask anything which includes TCP, which includes maybe UDP, network address translation, address resolution protocol, IP addressing, routing. It's also include HTTP or HTTPS or maybe TLS. See the depth of questions, right? And that is what I'm saying. Interviewer can take maybe 5 minutes to close this question, or I have seen interviews. Over this question, people have spent 1.5 hours. They just want to understand how much or how your networking fundamentals are. And this is one of the most asked questions in interview, right? So first thing first, the good news is you already know about this, the answer of this question. Why? Because if you are following everything from the beginning, from the question number 1 to question number 10, and then you came on question number 11, believe me, almost 80% of the answer you know, right? But my aim or my intent today is to talk about complete end-to-end flow of this question. What are the possibilities, right? Because if you understand what exactly happens when you type google.com in your browser and what exactly happened behind the scene from routing to NAT to UDP to TCP, everything we will be covering. And that is what I'm saying, end-to-end flow. Okay, so if you are ready with me, let's move towards my board. And by the way, we have only one board for this question, and that board is this one. So to explain this, I need to make sure that you understand this diagram first. So what we have here, if you see this rectangle right here, this rectangle is my home network or maybe any enterprise network. Enterprise means you go to your office, that is an enterprise. So this can be home network or enterprise network, and your laptop can be in your home or your laptop can be in your office. And I'm presuming this laptop as an device, the meaning is host, which is going to write www.google.com into its browser. And then we need to discuss, right? So this is my host. And then we have a switch. Then we have this router here. Now you must be wondering, Mr. Vishnu, I think you made a mistake here. In my home, there is no switch or router. I have a device which looks like this, which is having maybe 4 antennas, and we call this as a Wi-Fi router. We do not have two things. Believe me, this guy is having router and switch inbuilt in it. Okay, but if you go to your enterprise, your laptop will be connected to a nearby switch, and then eventually your traffic will be passing via a router. And now you might be having one more doubt that Mr. Vishnu, the laptop doesn't need to be connected to a switch, means we do not need a wire. On the contrary, we actually connect to an access point. And I agree with you, but believe me, everything behind this access point is a wired network. For example, when you go to your enterprise or office, you will be having this access point, and through this access point, you wirelessly connect. You are wirelessly connected, right? But eventually, this access point is connected to this switch over a wire, over the Ethernet wire, if the Ethernet technology is used, right? So this setup, this home network or enterprise network is really important to understand. In your home, this router and switch is combined into one device, which is known as wireless router. But in enterprise, we have switches, we have routers, and so on. Now, if you want to connect this home network or your enterprise network, you need to take help from the service provider itself. And there are many service providers in India like Jio, like Airtel, and now you would like to connect to internet. by using or utilizing Airtel service. If that is the case, what Airtel is going to do, Airtel will give you this wire, just an Ethernet wire, and you are going to connect it inside your Wi-Fi router or maybe on your enterprise router. This is very, very simple topology. I am not including any redundancy here for the sake that I just want to explain you a bigger picture, right? What is going to happen when you write google.com? So first thing first, as I mentioned, I am just explaining you this topology first. So we have Airtel service provider, which is giving you this which is giving this wire, Ethernet wire, and then you run some routing here, or maybe the static routing here. We have Airtel network, which is eventually connected to other service provider network. And by the way, this set of cloud, you can say the three clouds, they are making your internet, right? What exactly internet is? Internet is the collection of many different networks, and mostly there are many network of service providers, and then we have endpoints like us which is connected to this internet, right? And that is how our total or whole internet is formed, right? If you have seen my previous video, which is question number 10, which is why DNS is so important for the internet, you must have seen this 8.8.8.8, which is the DNS resolver, right? And where it is going to be? This will be again connected to internet. As I mentioned that this guy, this host will be writing www.google.com into its browser. This browser can be Firefox, this browser can be Chrome, right? But eventually this guy wants to connect to the Google server, which is again available on internet, although it is inside the Google data center. But we are not here to explain the data center topology, right? But just try to understand wherever it is, eventually it will be reachable over internet. It might be connected to any service provider, we do not know, and that's why I have written here ISP. As I mentioned, that these ISPs are connected together and they are exchanging routes. And this is where routing come into picture. And mostly between service providers, we use Border Gateway Protocol, which is BGP. Okay, because these service providers have many routes and we need some different kind of policies. If you do not understand BGP, do not worry about it. My website has a course on BGP also. If you would like to have it, that is, I think, 20 hours of course, and it would be more than enough for you. Now, google.com is connected to internet. This resolver is connected to internet, and my home network is connected to internet. So this is the whole soul, right, idea behind this topology. Now we understood this, right? Now we are in very good shape, position to understand what is going to happen when this computer writes www.google.com. By the way, this picture is looking cluttery. What I'm going to do, I will be moving to the next board, which is exactly the same. As I mentioned that we have only one board today. I will be explaining everything step by step on this board itself, right? So where the process will start, step number one. Step number one is going to be, I will open my Chrome browser and I will be writing google.com inside it. So this guy will be open the Chrome browser, and inside the Chrome browser, we will be writing google.com, right? So what is going to happen? As you know, this guy is a laptop, right? And it has opened an application. The application name is maybe Chrome or maybe Firefox. So this Chrome and Firefox maintain some information. They maintain the information about the recently visited websites, right? So when somebody has written bridgewhy.com, this laptop has the IP address of it because it might have asked to the DNS, what is the IP address of bridgewhy.com, right? And it doesn't want to get or ask this information again and again from the name server or the DNS server, right? And that is why they store this information into their cache. And if they're storing this information into the cache, right, this information is readily available. So when we write google.com and we know that the first thing is internet works on IP addresses, not on name. So for example, all the routers in this Airtel service provider or ISP, right? Maybe inside your network only, everything is working on IP address. You just can't say that send my package over IP to google.com because google.com to internet or to networking is just nothing. We understand IP addresses. And that is why we need IP address corresponding to this name, which is google.com. So Firefox or Chrome will ask Firefox or Chrome that do you know the IP address of google.com? Does your cache has this IP address? And google.com is going to say, no, I do not know about it, right? Sorry, the Chrome is going to say, I do not know about it. Why? Because maybe the Chrome never went to google.com in recent past, and that is why the cache doesn't have this information. What is going to happen? Now this Chrome or application will ask operating system. What are the operating system you have installed on this laptop? Maybe Linux, maybe whatever, right? Windows. And operating system is going to say, let me check my cache also, right? Or maybe let me check my host file. If you are an old networking guy, believe me, there is a host file which contains name and IP information. So maybe somebody has written that google.com has this IP address. So operating system is going to read this host file and giving the Chrome browser this IP address. As simple as that. But as I mentioned that google.com entry is not there in the host file, or maybe operating system hasn't reached out to google.com, so no information is the cache, right? So our first step is done. We have written google.com and we have asked the browser, we have asked the operating system, we have seen the host file, and there is no information regarding google.com. There is no information regarding the IP address of google.com, right? First step, we need IP address, which we do not find. And if you have seen my previous video, you must be wondering that Mr. Vishnu, you have explained in 40 minutes everything about DNS, right? And yes, you are right. What is going to happen? This guy, now this laptop knows, or laptop's operating system knows that it doesn't know anything about google.com. It is going to create a DNS packet. And in this DNS packet, what it is going to write? It writes, I need address of google.com. And this packet is DNS. We call that DNS letter. If you want to send this letter, right? But the interesting question is where we are going to send this letter. An operating system sees its configuration, and its configuration, the DNS server, somebody must have defined that the DNS server is 8.8.8.8. So in step number 2, what is happening? Operating system is reaching to 8.8.8.8, your, which is your what? Which is your resolver, right? Then what is the IP address of google.com, and where I am going to set my send my DNS query to? I will be sending my DNS query to 8.8.8.8. But to send this DNS letter, I need to encapsulate it into UDP. Why UDP? Try to understand once again. I have explained this in the previous question number 10, right? UDP is a protocol which doesn't need connection. And when the people were developing DNS, they were more worried about the speed and the small packet. They do not want overhead of making connections and then sending that packet again and again in case of the packet is not received, right? No overhead. UDP packet is small, only 4 fields are there. We have discussed this, right? So this is my DNS query, and this is the UDP encapsulation. Then on the top of UDP, what is there? There going to be IP address, right? What IP address, by the way? The IP address, the source IP address is going to be the machine's IP address or the laptop IP address, which might be say 192.168.1.10, say, right? And maybe /24 because I have explained you in the first video itself of this series that IP address doesn't have any meaning if you do not write The mask IP address alone, it doesn't have any meaning, by the way, right? So if you see here, the source IP address is going to be 1.10. I am just writing the last 2 octets of the IP address. 1.10 means 192.168.1.10, and the destination will be 8.8.8.8. As simple as that, right? This is my IP, this is my UDP header, this is my actual packet, and you till by this time, I believe that you understand the encapsulation and how it works, right? Now, what is going to happen? This device want to send this complete packet to where 8.8.8.8, and now interviewer come and he might ask how this communication is going to happen. Who will send this to 8.8.8.8? And you will say the PC, right? But before sending, PC will check that I am communicating to 8.8.8.8, and this is not in my network. It means that we are talking about communication between two different network, and this was the topic of the third video where I explained, third video of the series where I explained how to host communicate when they are in two different network, and this is what the interviewer can ask, right? That how it can go to 8.8.8.8. 8.8.8 is not in the same network, and if it is not in the same network, you have to tell the interviewer that I will be sending this packet to where? To my default gateway, because when we have two different networks, right? And if we want to communicate between these two networks, we have to have a router between them, and that is going to be my default gateway. Generally, the default gateway is having the first address of the network, which will be 192.168.1.1/24, which I have configured on this interface of this router. Doesn't matter whether it's a router or a Wi-Fi router, right? You have to configure this thing here, right? And I know this thing this thing will be present in the operating system. What is my default gateway? The default gateway is going to be 192.168.1.1. So step number 3, the packet which was created by operating system, the DNS packet, will be going to my default gateway, which is 1.1. As simple as that. And then here interviewer can come, and that is why the beauty of this question of the question is that interviewer can ask anything, right? And that is why the interviewer can go long for 1.5 hours. He might ask that how you are going to get the MAC address of this, right? Because you understand that inside a particular network, if you want to communicate, you need another addressing scheme, which is MAC address. And I have explained this beautifully in the video. Why do we need MAC address if we already have IP address, right? So to get this MAC address of this router, because this packet cannot get out from this laptop unless and until and unless you put the MAC or layer 2 header on top of it. Means source MAC and destination MAC. Where it is going, the destination is going to be 192.168.1.1. People get confused. Why the destination? Why won't be the destination 8.8.8.8? We are talking about the same network communication now. Why? Because we want to send this DNS packet to different network, but to send this packet to the different network, we have to send this packet to our router first, which is right here. And if that is the case, we need to understand, we need to know the MAC address of 192.168.1.1. And I think you all understand what is going to happen here. This machine will do address resolution protocol, which is a broadcast message. And I think I have explained this really well in the starting videos. How to computer communicate between two different networks, as simple as that, right? So see, interviewer can ask you, right? What is going to happen when you write google.com, maybe the operating system, the caches, the default gateway. And now you understand that this packet needs to go to 8.8.8. When this packet reaches to my router, router will send it towards 8.8.8.8. How? Because now this router has a default route here, which will be pointing towards Airtel network. So this DNS packet, right? whose source address is 192.168.1.10. I'm not writing the UDP packet. And the destination is 8.8, last two octets, 8.8. This will be sent by this router towards the Airtel. And here is one of the most interesting thing interviewer can ask. He will be asking that you are using 192.168.1.10 and you are sending this packet to Airtel. I understand that the default routing is there, the static route is there. You can send it towards the Airtel, but if I'm a service provider, when I check your source IP address, the source IP address is 192.168.1.10, which is a address, right, that belongs to private addressing. By the way, what is the private addresses? The addresses which are 192 start from 192.168 and along with some mask, maybe the mask is 16 here, then 172.16 slash 12 and 10 dot something slash 8. Just check about these. This is known as private addressing. Whenever service providers see a packet, doesn't matter source or destination, when it sees a private address, it is going to drop it. And then if you do not understand the concept, you are going to say, no, when I am in my home, I get this IP address and I always connect to the internet. I never face this problem. But believe me, guys, service provider is going to drop the packets which is having source or destination in this uh, from the private address range, right? I think most of you have also known the solution for this, and you must be wondering the solution. If you're new to the networking, the concept is known as network address translation. To be precise, port address translation. When you go to Airtel, Airtel is going to assign an IP address on the outside interface which is connected to the internet, and surely they will be giving you one public address which is, say, 11.11.11.11. I am taking any arbitrary number IP address, but I know this is the public address. But interestingly, the question is that how the communication happens now. So what this router does, this router actually take this IP address, which is 192.1.10. It is going to convert this IP address into 11.11.11.11. And this process is known as network address translation. You might have a question, Mr. Vishnu. It is not the case that I am going to have only one device. Maybe I have many devices here, because if in my enterprise network there are multiple, maybe more than 5,000 employees are there, or maybe 1,000 employees are there, how they are going to communicate, right, with this single address? And that is why we combine ports with IP address, and then we combine port with IP addresses. The technology is known as port address translation. For example, like what I can do, if this is a guy, I can say the port which he used to make a connection towards internet, maybe it is 312.16 or 7, right? And if I need to identify this guy, this is the port number, then the IP address of maybe 1.10, right? Or if it is going out, it will be having IP address of 11.11.11.11. But what is differentiating factor here? It is a port, because for other guy, this source port is going to be different, maybe 32717, right? And that is how we identify. So I give this with an example, right? For example, if we have Mr. Sharma's family, right, it has maybe 8 or 10 members, right? And they all have different names. But when they go out, they will be known with one name, that these are guys from Sharma's family, right? And that is exactly what is happening here, that all the addresses 192.168.1.10, 1.20, 1.30 or anything, right? They all will be known by one IP address, 11.11.11.11. But we need to differentiate them, and that is why we include ports. And that is the idea behind port address translation. Right. So if I ask you, the fifth step is going to be at your router, which will be doing network address translation, as simple as that, right? Or port address translation. I think we all are good till this point. So what is happening here? Your packet, your DNS packet will be reaching to the router, and router will be doing NAT, and eventually the Airtel network will be forwarding it towards 8.8.8.8. And what this guy is doing, this guy is a huge Google server. It is going to check into its cache that whether it knows google.com. If it doesn't know, then the entire process which we discussed in video number 10 or the question number 10 is going to happen. This guy is going to ask .com first. Then this guy is going to ask whom? Top level domains means .com, right? So first thing first, so sorry for this. This guy is going to ask the root. From root, it will come to TLDs, which are .com, .edu, .org, and from that, it will get the number or IP address of the name server or the authoritative name server, right? But eventually, what is going to happen? This guy will know that the google.com IP address is 172.217.24.100, which is exactly written here. As simple as that, right? And what will be happen? What is going to happen now? This guy will be replying with this IP address to this machine, and now my problem of knowing the name, knowing the IP address from the name is done. So from the step number 6, your resolver will be sending, right? Your resolver will be sending back the IP address of the google.com, right? See the number of steps. See what interviewer can ask. It can ask subnetting also here, right? It can ask routing here. It can ask NAT here. Complete DNS, which we have discussed, right? Now my first problem is solved, and this is the biggest problem. I now have the name. Sorry, I have the IP address of google.com. As simple as that, right? Now what is going to happen? Now this guy would like to make a connection to google.com. Why connection? And when you are going to say that this guy is going to make a TCP connection to google.com by sending the SYN, this guy can ask you definitely, why TCP now? Previously, you have sent all these things, the DNS requests, right? Previously, you were sending everything over UDP. But why you are sending now TCP? Because now you need a connection which is reliable. Because suppose you are asking for google.com search page and Google is sending GOO and then GLE is missing, right? You cannot afford that. And that is why TCP is used, right? In TCP, we first check whether the server is there or not. And if server is there, then I'm going to make a connection. So first thing first, we will be sending this SYN message, right? And what server is going to do? Server will be replying with the SYN ACK message, right? SYN plus ACK message, as simple as that. And then you will be replying back with another message which is known as ACK, as simple as that, right? And the three-way handshake is done. By the way, we have a complete video on TCP, right? In this interview preparation series only. Okay, why didn't we choose UDP? All the UDP is fast, but it is not connection oriented, is not reliable. Packets can be missed, right? Here TCP, we want for this connection, right? We want connection oriented protocol. That is why we are going to use TCP. Now, what will be happening? I am interested in Google web page. So I will be writing this in my HTTP request, get request we call this, and I will be writing here, give me your home page. By the way, right, I do not know much about HTTP, how it works, how the page is going to render, right, on the end system. But this is from the packet wise, we can understand. This is my HTTP. So this is basically the application layer protocol. And HTTP runs over TCP because we need the reliable connection, and if we need TCP, we have to make this three-way handshake, right? After TCP, what is going to happen when the handshake is done, right? This message is formed, right? When the handshake is done. Previously, we have sent SYN, SYNAC, and ACK. This is again the TCP base, but nothing there with respect to HTTP. So HTTP is started. HTTP data transfer will be started, HTTP or HTTPS. And here, whenever you say S, the interviewer guy can ask, definitely, what is the meaning of this S? And then you are going to say, S means secure. Then he is going to ask, what is the meaning of secure? You'll be saying that it is secure because it is using secure socket layers or maybe TLS. And he can ask about TLS also, right? Because if you say that, yes, I have done some security also, then he can ask. And by the way, in today's world, there is no boundary. If you go for a network interview, right? People can ask from the data center, people can networking, people can ask from enterprise networking, they can ask from security also. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you need to be expert in everything. I'm just saying you should know the foundation, the basics at least. And if you want to learn the basic of anything, just invest maybe 15, 20 or 25 hours in that, and that is should be more than enough, right? So few things which you need to spend maybe 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, and for few things you just need to spend 20 hours, 25 hours, right? So this HTTP message, I want to get your homepage using the GET request, right? It will be encapsulated into TCP. By this time, you should understand what is the meaning of encapsulation. And then IP, where the source is going to be what? The source will be my 1.10, my machine address, and the destination will be 24.100, the last two octet of google.com, as simple as that, right? And then this message will be received, the simple get message will be received by your Google server, the get request, and it will be replying back over this internet, the get request. And that is how your browser will be showcasing you that beautiful page of Google search. And guys, this is what happens when you do this, right? So once after this step, once you have the IP address with you, then you can send the HTTP request and so on, right? I think you get the idea now. But believe me, if you start this series from question number 1, right, to this question is absolutely easy. I know that I haven't explained NAT till yet, right? But I have a series like CCNA, or there are many things available on my website. More than 26 courses are available there, right? I have explained NAT there. I have explained TLS there. So whatever is not here, whatever you are seeing that Vishnu, there are some concepts which you have never explained in this interview preparation series. Those are available on my website. Some are free, some are with some cost, right? As simple as that, right? So I think this question is the heart of any network interview. And if you have seen those 10 questions, where I have explained the communication inside the same network, the subnetting, routing, right? Trace route, I have explained there. I have explained TCP, MTU, MSS, DNS, spanning tree protocol. If you know all these things, right, this question is going to be easy. If you put some more concept like TLS and network address translation, that is it. Thank you so much, guys, for being with me, right? For one of the most interesting and frequently asked question in the interview. Having said that, see you in the next question, right? I'm not sure what is the next question. I'll see that, but we will prepare it soon, and we will meet in the next question. Bye for now.